Welcome, everybody, to the Sales Unscripted podcast. I am Margaret Henney.
I'm Brian Neal.
And we are your hosts here today. We are joining you in the morning. Cheers.
Cheers.
We've got coffee.
Bourbon down the hatch. Oh, it's coffee. Shit, my bad. Nothing like a little bullet rye to get you going at 8:30 a.m. A little bullet rye where my bourbon people
Normally, I'm here with my LaCroix because we're like doing this in
You
the
are.
afternoon or
It's
whatever.
the morning.
And it's the morning. I'm like, I got to get up. So here I am. Also, the coffee
What's it-
mug
yeah, what does it
that
say?
I found. This is in your office, by the way.
Oh,
It
is it
says,
really? What does it say?
Raising teenagers is like nailing Jello to a wall.
Why do we have that here?
I don't
Why is
have
that in my office?
I don't have the faintest idea. I also
Seriously.
don't know if I know what that means.
Raising teenagers?
Yeah.
You were one.
Well, but like nailing Jello to a wall? What? What does
you-
that mean?
you literally
It's
don't get
hard?
it?
It just sucks?
Well,
you can't do it? It's
We'll
impossible?
just think about, let me think about nailing Jello to a wall. I don't know why we have that.
I don't
That's
like it.
a little too corny for me.
I know. I figured.
I'm
but
a
I
little
was like,
disappointed in our choice of humor
here I am. I'm
for
using
the
it, though.
office coffee mugs. Well, thank you. I have
I'll get you a new coffee
just
mug.
our jet black ones because the
That's nice. That's classy.
bourbon lines don't show as well.
Bourbon lines. Whatever.
It's funny.
Okay, listen.
See,
right
okay.
before we got on, you were like,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you about your wedding.
I am.
But listen, I'm going to tell you about something else even more important.
Oh, okay.
Well, not more important. But this weekend, our parents met.
Oh, really?
Yes.
For the first time?
For the first time.
No
because
way.
they live in California.
Right.
His folks live in California.
Right.
Mine live in Indiana. There's no way their paths would ever cross. And they
Yes.
were both adamant. They were like, we have to
Yes.
meet before the wedding. And I was kind
I
of
get
like,
that. I get
you guys,
that,
it's in a
actually.
month and a half.
I get
like,
it.
hold tight.
I get it.
But it was so good.
That's great.
It went
Isn't that
really
great?
well. And I was stressing.
Of course you were.
I was stressing, dude.
Of course you were.
But it went really well, and it was super sweet to see
That's
them interact.
awesome. Isn't that neat?
So, yeah,
That's such
it
a
was really
thing.
cool.
And it's a thing. You're getting married, and you waited a minute to get married, which is great. So you got a little more maturity under your belt versus those of us who screwed it up the first time, but we learn, right? So, but I think one of the things that people don't realize is you marry that whole family. That's
Whole
part of the
family.
deal. And our Pollyanna brain wants everything to be perfect and
I
everyone
know.
gets along and the in-laws are friends and they go on vacation together and da-da-da-da.
I
Which-
won't make them do that.
but more than anything, you
Yeah.
just want them to be reasonable
Yes.
and know each other and respect each other and all whatever that comes.
Totally.
With. That's great.
I know.
How great
so
is that? Isn't
it
that
was
nice?
really sweet. And they in some ways could not be more different. And that's why,
Right.
Derek and I are super different.
Yeah.
So I was like, how is this going to go? And it was just easy conversation.
That's awesome.
So much to talk about. It was just really, really lovely. And I took some
deal.
cute pictures. I took
That's
pictures
really great.
of them together. I took a selfie with all 6 of us.
Aw.
And it was a whole
So
moment.
fun.
So yeah, it's
And
good.
it's almost September.
It's almost October. October is
Well,
when
I
I'm
know,
getting
but I
married.
mean, what I was saying.
Yeah, I
is-
was like, don't freak me out.
Well, it's almost September,
I
which
know.
then means it's
Almost
October's
October.
next.
I am stressing.
You are gonna blink, girl, and you're gonna be sitting there going, "What just happened?" That's Sunday morning. You're gonna wake up and go, "What's the date again?"
October the 7th. October the 7th.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I'm gonna be in London, England.
London, England.
I am.
All right, cool.
Sorry
Well,
with a fringe on top.
wish me well. Give me
Yeah.
a little, I don't know, salute from
Someone's
across.
head resting on my knee. You know
Oh
that
my
one?
God, yes.
Warm
I
and
love My Fair
tender.
Lady.
It's the greatest play on the
so
earth, isn't it
much.
great?
It's
Every time
so
I
good.
could watch it over and over.
Move your blooming arse.
Your
everyone.
arse.
If you guys know musicals, then you know
By
it.
George, I think she's got it. God, I love that show so
love
much.
it.
It's so fun.
Wasn't that guy also the guy who was in the
She's
movie?
got it. She's got it. By George, I think she's got it.
He was Dr. Doolittle, and
He was.
obviously it was Audrey Hepburn who
Yeah,
did
right.
not do the singing.
No.
In case don't get it twisted. But
The
she,
rain in Spain stays mainly in the plains. The aunts and friends play mainly on the plants.
see, this is the problem when we do this before
love
we've
this.
had any food and we're only
We're
on
seriously,
coffee.
and that's not bourbon.
We
That's just
have
coffee. It's
got
fun, isn't
to
it?
Get to
topic.
the topic.
We doing?
we'll go
Are we
all
doing?
day.
Is it my
It's
version?
your
Okay,
topic,
so we're going
baby.
to talk. Thank you. We're going to talk about resistance. This is, and it's timely because I've been working on this with my business coach. And let me tee it up and just get your thoughts on this. So the idea here is that no matter where we are in our sales life and or personal life, but in our sales life, because this is a sales podcast that translates into life sometimes, we will come across resistance, either external or internal resistance. External resistance meaning I want to do something and I can't, or it won't happen, or whatever. Let's say I want to have a meeting with someone, and the one time I want to have the meeting with them, they're out of town for vacation or whatever.
Okay. So outside your control.
Outside your control resistance, right?
Got it. Okay.
A company shuts down that I'm calling on.
Damn.
nothing I can do.
You lose
right?
your contact.
You use your contact out.
Yep.
So that's resistance right there. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Then there is internal resistance. This is the stuff that's in our head, heart, and soul that keeps us from doing things, taking action on things that we want to and need to and have to, and that we just can. And we don't
this
know why.
episode for me?
It's really not. No. They're all for you, Margaret. Have you not figured? This isn't really a sales podcast. This is an intervention for Mark.
Oh my God! You just Truman showed me.
No, is that what that is?
Well,
Truman Show? What a great
in
movie,
Truman
too.
Show where you're like, wait, wait a second, like everyone's watching you.
Yeah.
Which only narcissists
My
think that. But.
my stepson is he's sort of an old soul, and I was gone for a football event, and so I was texting with my wife Stephanie and said, what are you guys doing? She goes, me and Davis. We're just sitting here watching the Truman Show. I'm like, the Truman Show. I'm like, Davis, he's in 7th grade.
He's in 7th
he's in
grade.
watching the Truman Show. It's kind of
He's
a heavy show.
thinking.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I
That
like
show's
it.
got a lot of stuff in it, but he loves it. He's wide awake. Anyway,
That's adorable.
So we have resistance. Okay?
Internal.
And so today's topic is really about examining what to do and how we react to both external resistance and internal resistance. That's the idea. So think of it like resistance handling, awareness, moving through it, moving around and embracing it, that sort of thing. So I'd love your thoughts on either one of those, external or internal resistance.
Oh, internal resistance I am very familiar with.
Okie
External
dokie.
resistance doesn't bother me that much because
Interesting.
I'm sort of like, can't do anything about it,
That's
move
good.
on. So that is like something that if I know for a fact I can't control it, I'm not necessarily spinning my wheels a whole bunch being like, ooh, how can I get around this? And I'm just kind of like,
Yes.
it almost feels freeing. I'm like, can't do anything about it, move on to the next thing.
You say that again. It feels what?
Freeing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really love that.
It's sort of like, okay, this is a weird comparison, but I always felt really good when I turned in a test or a project in school, because some people would be like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And I'd be like, I love it. There's nothing else I can do about it now. I've done everything that I could possibly do. Now it's time to kick back, baby.
That's so great.
And I don't know. That's always how I've operated. Now, internal resistance is totally different.
Before you go, I want to talk about your external because that's really good. And I
good.
think that's very most people are not like you naturally.
okay.
I think most people worry after they turn the test in. I think most people worry, oh, my buyer left. Oh my gosh, that's bad. Versus, and so is there anything that some of us were just born that way.
Yeah.
But is there any coaching or an idea you could give to someone that maybe isn't wired like you? You can think of that like,
okay, I don't know if this is going to help
all right.
necessarily, but you know how like the worst, like when something goes wrong and it's like your fault, there's nothing worse than that. And like sometimes, that is the stuff that I really struggle with. When something goes wrong and I'm like, I didn't impact this. I'm like, it's not my fault. I didn't control this. It's not my fault. I'm not to blame. That feels really good to me.
You say that to yourself.
And so, and
See,
I'm
that's
like,
really cool. That's a good little thing. Like there's nothing that I didn't leave the company, my buyer did or whatever. I didn't shut the company down.
Yep.
Like Warren Buffett will say, he talks about like stocks. He said, because people invest with emotions. He said, the stock doesn't care if you own it or not.
Yeah.
The stock doesn't care when you sell it. The stock doesn't care if you hold it. The stock doesn't care if it pays you a dividend. The stock has no feelings. But somebody like, oh, the stock's going up, it's bad.
And like the whole, like, I should have known. Like,
Right.
How could you possibly,
Yes.
for the most
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
You're like, I had no idea
Yeah.
that they were downsizing. I had no idea that, this person was going to leave or whatever the case might be. So to me, I don't know, those are the ones that I feel like a little bit better about just breaking off
really great.
and then moving on to the next
That's
thing.
a really
So
great skill. You may not know how good of a skill that
I
is.
didn't know that. Actually, you're really pumping me up.
It's really
so
good.
that
No,
feels
it's really,
good.
really great. It's I hope people can hear that and buy into that idea because that's a great way to handle it. I love this little mantra, this thing you say to yourself, like nothing I could do. I didn't shut the company down, so I got to carry on because there's so much out of your control that we let us affect us that becomes resistance for us.
Yep.
Then it turns into internal resistance. Now let's talk about that. How about that for a segue?
Now that's where the fun part comes in for me. I don't know. The internal resistance, getting myself to be like, not exactly motivated. I think I really struggle with doing things perfectly. I want things to be done perfectly. And strangely enough, people who have that like, kind of mindset, I think sometimes it can actually come out as like laziness.
Totally.
Or putting things off.
Procrastination.
Procrastination, thank you. But it's more like I'm worried about not being able to do it exactly the way that I should. And so for that, I have to do a lot of like progress, not perfection, Margaret, and be like, done is better than perfect. Those are like my mantras I have to tell myself, and I have to say it a lot. Like,
I love that.
Oh, it's so exhausting. I'm thinking about it right now. There's like a slide deck that I need to get done. And I'm like, oh, I could throw the whole slide deck out the window and do it as an amazing video in the studio with Nick instead. It was due yesterday. I can't redo it. Like, there's no time. I just have to like get it done and turn it in. It's not that big of a deal. So.
Right. Yeah, that's a practice thing. You have to keep practicing, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I have less of that. I have a huge tolerance for failure. Massive tolerance for failure. I just try shit. I'm going to try it, right? I'm going to give it a shot. And some of the stuff works and some of it doesn't, but I'm going to try. Like, that's the deal. So I have a gift there where I catch resistance is when I start to level something up or put myself out there, and then I'm out there. It's almost like when you jumped off the high dive, and you're like, "Fuck, should I have done that?" And you're falling, at whatever it's called, the maximum velocity. You knew that because you're a physics person. Maximum velocity,
for
you know
sure
exactly
did not
what that
know
is.
That, but
yeah,
great.
It's a thing actually.
I believe you.
Like objects fall at maximum velocity; they only fall so fast with resistance. And then if you put two things that have the same in a vacuum, a penny and a feather will fall at the exact same rate. So if you take a tube, put a penny and a feather in it, turn it over, it'll like the feather floats down. If you suck all the air out, they both go whack, straight down at the same time.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell me like what's heavier, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers, and you're like, they weigh the same. It's a ton. Whatever. Never mind.
Anyway, so we've digressed. Okay. Good physics lessons for you there, the theater major.
Thank you. Missed that one.
Yeah. That's what mine comes when I'm like already out. So I'm like, okay, I said I'm doing this thing, like, I better, I got to do it. Now there's this pressure to execute. We've got a big event that we're producing where I'm really going over my skis with some guests that I'm bringing in. They're like really like famous people. And I'm like, okay, am I ready for that? Like, I'm going to be on this,
you're gonna be great.
I'm going to interview this panel with these really famous people. But I'm like, no, I am. And I still have the resistance. So some of the resistance for me is like, do I really belong? It's a lot easier to go sit in the back of the room. God, that's easy.
God, I know.
It's so much easier to not do one of these things. It would have been so much easier to never put the podcast out for us, right?
Oh my gosh, that's totally true.
Would have carried on. Now we've got we love hanging out together and stuff, but we got a couple hours we're together a month. We got to talk about the strategy, have it edited. We got all this stuff to do. Like, man, if we didn't do the podcast, we wouldn't have all this shit to do.
That's totally.
But then we missed the big opportunity.
The idea of like doing stuff scared too, because I think a lot of people have the idea that like, I'm going to do it when I'm not afraid. I'm afraid, so I'm not going to do it. And you're like, no, the best people, they have that tension. They have that fear and they're still doing it, right? So getting more comfortable with being afraid and still doing it, particularly like, I think sometimes like our little reptile brains are like, oh my God, don't go out of the cave. The saber-toothed tiger is in there. But starting a podcast is not like that.
No.
But our like fear brain is like, we have almost that same level of resistance to it where we're like, ooh, that's dangerous. I don't want to do it. What? It's true.
No, it's true. I'm sure you've read the Dragons of Eden, which is the history of the evolution of the brain by Carl Sagan.
I haven't.
Okay. Well.
You're like putting me on blast right now for all the science stuff.
I'm not.
I don't know.
You're triggering I was a science guy in high school. Like I went a whole science track. Like I did like engineering and physics and chemistry and biology. And that's what I studied all like heavy duty. I like tested out of 5 hours of chemistry before I got to high school or college. Isn't that crazy?
Terrible.
Crazy.
That sounds terrible.
And then I went into business. Anyway, so that book, it's very old, but The Dragons of Eden by Carl Sagan, who's a very famous philosopher, astronomer guy. He talked about that. And it's that limbic part of your brain, the middle part, the reptilian part of your brain that has evolved with neocortex over time, but that core there is still there, right? Fight or flight, it's all there.
So you just have to remind yourself like, hey, I'm not really in danger here. I can still have fear and push forward and do this thing, and that's okay. Yes. And I get that so much with video, man. Like trying to get people to use like video messaging. It's crazy, isn't it? I'm like, I promise that you will not burst into flames. No. And I also promise that people won't laugh at you. No. Like it will not happen. No. Like just try it. But there is so much like fear around not doing it exactly right. So I understand.
It's very true. And there's another element to that. Well, I will tell you this just from my other job. And your future father-in-law will attest to this.
Leon.
Yeah, Leon, who played how many years in the NFL?
I want to say he played like, no, not
9?
that many. I think eight
That's
or
a
9.
lot. That's a
something
lot
like
of
that.
years to play in the National Football League. A lot of years.
And he got out almost unscathed, which
right,
is
it's crazy.
crazy.
And he will tell you if you ask him this, and you hear it all the time. Not so much the referees, but the players. There are players that puke before every game.
Oh.
Still, they've been playing this game since they were 7 years
No
old.
kidding.
They're playing the National Football League, and they're great players. Some of them are all pros, and they get so nervous and so anxious and everything. They just can't control themselves, and you can go to battle feeling. If you remember Saving Private Ryan, remember the opening scene of that?
Yeah.
And of course, there's a seasickness. Everyone was like getting sick on the boat. But I'm telling you, a lot of that was nerves because kids were like, "Oh my god!" So I believe that that's in all high performance things. If you follow, like I get these TikTok trends feeds now of bands right before they go on the stage. Well, they'll follow them out.
Okay.
And you'll see it. You'll see the Metallica, and you'll see who, pick a band, the Killers or whatever.
No
And
way.
you can tell them they're just kind of, you watch Freddie Mercury walk out to Live Aid, and he's kind of like fidgeting.
He's nervous.
He's nervous. Hell yeah, he's nervous. He's going out in front of a billion people.
I love it.
But it's great. He doesn't, and then that lets him do his thing. Yeah. I'm always nervous before games. Always.
Do you have okay. Do you have like something that you follow, like a pre-game
100%.
sort of thing
Yes.
that lets you get those nerves out, or that
Yes.
brings it in as part of it?
It brings it in. It slows it down. I have processes all over the place.
Okay.
And I'm superstitious.
Okay. Well, can I ask you what some of the things are?
Yep. So I always come in. I put all my stuff in. I unpack it in virtually the same way. I immediately go out onto the field. I get Steph's phone number ready to push send on, and then I step onto the field with my right foot. And right when I hit send, and I never do that in the end zone. Then I call Steph. I'll walk around, talk to her for a little bit. Then I go inside, and then I get myself stuff kind of unpacked. And then when I start to get dressed, I take my wedding ring off and I put it in my left dress shoe when I change shoes. So all those things. And then I have all these things. It's a whole thing. It's a process, but it does what you're saying. It allows you to experience then the art and the skill that you have.
Yes.
Beneath it all. So we're huge. This is kind of a little off topic, but one thing that helps you through resistance is process.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
I don't
totally
think we're
does.
off topic at all.
No.
I think like the same way before you get on a big sales call, or like before you start doing like cold calling, getting your head in the right spot, or like a presentation, whatever it is. Because like I used to do the same thing in theater. Like I was superstitious in theater. There were things that I did. There was like a special tea that I drank. And it wasn't like, it was just about getting my mind right and being like, okay, I'm going into like game mode now.
Was it chamomile?
No, I hate chamomile.
It's awful, isn't it? It's supposed to put you to sleep. All it does is make your throat hurt.
Oh, no.
What did you drink before your...
It was always lemon, like any kind of like lemon and
voice?
Honey for my voice. And that sort of thing. But I would do like breathing exercises. I would look in the mirror. I would do like pep talk sort of thing. It's been a long time, so I kind of forget. But
you should get back into it, Margaret.
I know. I should.
Why don't you?
I don't know.
There's community theater all over the place.
Internal resistance is why.
It is why. Because you start to say all this stuff. Well, I don't have time. Well, it's so fun, though.
I know. It is so fun.
Right?
But
I never was on the stage. I was behind it, but I love
I had the same thing as you, though, where I was like, this is the process that I follow. And it made me, by the time you do your last step, you're like, and now I'm ready.
I would tell you this, too, listening, you listeners there. Sales process. And it's not, so we think sales process like step 1, discovery. Step 2, present, demo. Step 3, negotiate. It's not that. It's the you process of the how to do those things.
Right.
I've been using this cheesy example about what process means. And I say, okay, let's do this. If I have a group of 10 people, grown-ups, everybody untie your shoes so that everyone's shoes untied.
Yeah.
And I videoed everybody. I go, okay, everybody tie your shoes. Just tie your shoes. Everyone will wind up with their shoes tied.
Yeah.
True?
Yeah.
Everyone.
Right.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
You all tied your shoes. Then we're going to go back and watch the videos. You know what you're going to see?
All different.
10 different methods to tie the shoe. The how, not the what. So those processes of how to make sure, do you have a reason of why, how you do tie your shoes? You tie your shoes a certain way because it's either how you learned or whatever. And then you get a result. Like, do your shoes stay tied, or do they, do you double knot them?
Yeah.
Same with sales, right? So if you do the process, not the discovery present process,
your own.
but the how I do the discovery, that's mine, and how do I prep pre-discovery, that lets the resistance wane. It
Yeah.
lets it drop, right?
Yeah.
It never totally goes away, like you said.
Well, and it
Always a little
reminds me,
scared.
like, this was a while ago, but when I was doing sales at Co-Video, and like before I would get on big calls where I was like, okay, there's gonna be a lot of people on here, we're getting close down to it, you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
To get my confidence and my game face up, you know,
Yeah.
like whatever, I would usually listen to Beyonce.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, totally. Because you're like, that's when I'm feeling super in my power.
Like
and
Sasha
I would,
Fierce-ish?
Oh yeah. Oh, exactly. So
Like
then
big-
you're
yeah.
like, you know,
You're on it.
I love how
Any particular
Beyonce
song?
is Beyonce, and then on stage she is Sasha Fierce.
She is 100%.
That is like her persona, and I would go into almost my like, okay,
machine.
now I'm in my like sales
Huh,
Margaret
that's
mode.
great.
So anyway,
Any particular song?
pretty much anything. Beyonce,
All of them?
All
Yeah,
Beyonce,
yeah, she's a badass.
Beyonce.
Like, what a power couple.
I know. God,
Good
I love them.
God.
Okay, I think we pretty much we
did-
covered
that was
a lot
really
on
good
this
one.
here.
Yeah. So if you have resistance, one, you're in good company.
Yes.
Everybody's got it, right? You get external, internal. External, use the Margaret Henny version.
Yeah,
Just
not
let
your
it go,
fault. Move
right?
on.
Just let it roll. I love that. Internal stuff, you just process that process
Work
with
your own
process.
process.
Right? You work your process to help some of that go away, and then send good vibes as we move into September.
I know.
Margaret, are you gonna change your name?
I'm not.
Okay, we'll talk about that next time.
Okay, great.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Bye, guys.